This is lecture 11, and we will complete our implementation of the GCD algorithm today. So, this is the algorithm that we are trying to implement. The same resource has been pushed to you through the Academy app. What we have to remember is initially we are resetting all the registers, and then when a start signal comes, we load the inputs U and V into X and U, and then depending on whether X is even and Y is even, or whether they are odd, etc., we do a certain set of actions and update the registers X and Y. We come out of the loop when X is equal to Y, and at that point you simply do the operation. Whatever is the count number, you want to do 2 power count into whatever is the value in X. That gives you the GCD value, right? And to do that operation, we have a separate loop that has been implemented here. So overall, our system is going to look like this. We have a system that has inputs as clock reset. We need to feed in the two inputs whose GCD we are trying to calculate. A start signal to tell our hardware, okay, you can start calculating the GCD now. And once the computation is completed, our hardware should make a ready signal go high, letting us know that the GCD value is available in the register. Okay? And we went through how to construct this data path in the previous class, and we have constructed the data path like this. Okay, so now there were a lot of nice suggestions as we were building the system. So one of them was, instead of trying to do both the loops using the variable, using the register X, what if I complete the first loop using X, and the second loop where we did 2 power count into X by storing this into a separate register, and then so maybe I will call this as X1, and then doing the left shifting operation based on this. So the left shifting operation will not be part of this loop. You will store this into another register, and then you will do the left shifting there, and then we will have some sort of update it or retain the value, etc. This is also again a very reasonable suggestion. In fact, sometimes when your systems are so big, you might want to store the information at intermediate stages so that it becomes easier to debug it, right? For example, if at the end of loop 1 you want to find out what was the value stored in X, currently the system doesn't have a mechanism to keep that stored, because at the end of loop 1, when you move on to loop 2, you are still updating your X, right? So what this value was, you are coming out of the loop when X was equal to Y, but what this value is not available to you when you complete the whole operation. So instead, if you were to store this into a separate register, right, then this preserves the original value where X was equal to Y, and you can read out both and see how the computation has progressed. So as a debugging information, this might be something useful to have. Okay. Now, so in the same manner, what if you get stuck in the loop, right? Let's say something happened in the loop such that you were never able to reach the state X equal to Y, right? If so, for debugging, you may want to bring out both the X as well as Y. For a smaller code like this, ideally you should be able to catch all these issues directly during the simulation, and even the implementation shouldn't be that hard. But for a bigger code, this debugging information is something that becomes very useful when you are testing it. And this is the testing that is happening before you sell it to the customer, right? You design it, you get the chip, and then you will test it before you start marketing it as a product. So all of this debugging information is necessary during the testing and verification phase. Okay, so now I got a very nice question here. Now this is a shift register, right? You are shifting it either left or right. How would I implement this? So maybe not even a ring counter is necessary. If I consider 2-bit, right, and I could have, so this is a 2-bit register. Both of them are having the same clock, and let's say this is your output. Now, if you wanted to shift the value, so I'm going to think about two options. So Q1, Q2. Let's say you have the option to feed in A1 and A2 as input, or you want to have the option to right shift it, right? So all that it means is that the Q1 should be given as input to this. And then you can have a appropriate mux control here. So this has to be 0 because if you are right shifting it, the MSB, assuming it's a positive integer, MSB has to be 0. If you were dealing with both positive and negative integers, then the MSB has to be 0 if it's a positive integer, 1 if it is a negative integer, right? And you can, let's say, give this register a name, shift right. So the same shift right signal is fed in here. And then you can feed in like this. Okay, so now the nice question that came was, this operation is then happening at a clock cycle. How would we make sure that all of these operations are correctly sequenced such that it happens in the right order, right? So how you can think about this is, let's say at a clock edge, your X and Y are getting updated. At the same time, the X and Y are getting updated, you have the previous value of Y minus X here, right? And that will get right shifted here, right? Now, if you wanted this right shifted value to be stored in X and Y, then you have to make sure that your load Y signal and the update Y signal are going high appropriately. That's all. You have to keep track of when you expect an input to come at the D input of the flock, and you make sure that the load X or load Y are going high appropriately according to that. Okay?
But when at that clock edge, when the right shift is happening, we cannot just like place these values to the register right away, no? Because we have to
You
wait
can't.
for the clock cycle.
Right. You will have one clock cycle delay here, right?
For
Which
this part there is one clock cycle delay.
correct. There is
But
one
for
clock
the
cycle delay.
Negative or equality check part, there is no delay.
There is no delay.
So this can cause a problem.
It can cause a problem if you don't take care of it when you are generating the control signals, right? So, yeah, that is the.
So I mean, like, see, if one part takes 3 clock cycle delay and one takes 1 clock cycle delay, so I have to design that circuit such that all of these takes the maximum, like 3 cycle delay. No?
Correct. You have to design such that the load signal here is going high when all the appropriate inputs are ready.
Now, but when I construct the state diagram of data path and control path, I don't care of it at all, no? Because I just make it a medium machine like.
So if you make it, no, we still have to care about it. So in this particular case, what is going to happen when you implement it as a code is that this shifting operation, like I mentioned, it is going to happen in the flock. So you can incorporate that directly into the Y. You already have an n-bit register, right? We already said it is going to have the option to load or hold the previous value, right? You make the mux maybe 4 input, include the options to right shift and left shift there itself. So even though I have shown it as a block here, technically the operation is happening directly at this edge. Right? Then you don't have to really worry about the clocking part.
But like in general, I have to consider these things.
Yes, it has to be considered. Right? So when you write your Verilog code to describe the hardware, right, you will run a simulation and then you will immediately be able to catch if there are any timing issues. And after a couple of Verilog, after writing a couple of codes like this, you'll get a hang of things, right? When you're using a Moore, maybe you have to check if the timing is, you're waiting for the appropriate number of clock cycles before you load it, etc. Yeah. But very nice questions. So this is your data path. Another suggestion that had come was, instead of having multiple muxes like this, why not use a single, let's say 4:1 mux to combine this and this. So you generate all possible outputs, let's say X minus Y, left shifted version and right shifted version, and then feed it to a larger n:1 mux. That is also a reasonable solution, right? Now, another interesting thing that you have to keep in mind is that, let's say you got the specification, you got an algorithm in the form of a C code, You figured out how the data path is. And of course, finally to implement this, we are going to describe this behavior using a Verilog code. Right? So we describe the behavior using a Verilog code, and then we will translate that first into a generic netlist, something like this, followed by a netlist in terms of the standard cells, right? Where you have the cells such as and, not, mux, etc. already characterized by somebody else. Now, if that standard cell had only 4:1 mux, right? Even if you code it in this way with 2 muxes, this logic needs to be combined and mapped to a 4:1 mux. So typically the EDA tool will take care of that. And on the other hand, if you designed it using a 4:1 mux, your data path, when you imagined it, it had a 4:1 path, you coded it accordingly. But again, your standard cell library has only 2:1 muxes. Then this logic needs to be mapped again in terms of the 2:1 muxes. Okay, so very, very interesting algorithms are running inside your EDA tools to do all of this mapping. Okay, so now that you have the data path ready, we can start thinking about the controller. So the controller has common inputs like clock, reset, and start, which is coming from outside your system. It has to generate a signal ready, and these are the other inputs that it is taking from the data path. Right? You need to check if your x and y are odd or even. And last day we said that if your LSB value is 0, then the number is even, right? So if x0 is 0, that is sufficient to tell us that x was even, right? So we use this x of 0 and y of 0 to identify if these numbers are odd or even. Then we have these conditions x double equal to y, where we are checking whether to remain in the first loop or the second, move on to the second loop. Again, a condition we need to check is whether x is greater than y. And when do we check this condition? Can you look at the code and tell me? When both are odd, right? And finally, once you have entered in the final loop where you are trying to do this 2 power count, you need to repeat this action till your count value is decremented to 0. So that is also another input. And based on this information, we have to generate all of these control signals. Okay, and then we started looking at how to write a state machine for this. And our first approach here was to identify what are the states that we want to infer from this logic. So we started with a reset state. This is to reset the values to 0. Then we said we will have a start state, right? So when we move from reset state to the start state, in the start state, we are going to load the values of u and v to x. Now, there was an interesting question here. Why do we need a separate state like this? Can't we directly move from reset to whatever the next state is and load x and y if you get the start signal high when you are in reset state? That is also a very reasonable solution. So what I am presenting to you, this necessarily is not the most optimal solution in which you can implement this. Right? You can come up with more number of reasonable solutions. I'm just taking you through the flow of implementing one algorithm. That's all. Yeah. So then let's say we have the reset state, and after that we said we will call this whole loop as our loop 1. So S loop 1. Then this whole thing as our S loop 2. And if your result is ready, we are going to move to another state called as S ready. Okay. Now let us start constructing the finite state machine for the same. So we had completed so much. Can you tell me what do you expect to see in this condition? Right? When under this condition, when x is x is even and y is even, first tell me what you expect to happen, what you expect to see in the x and y variables. So this corresponds to x being even, y being even. So you want your x to be X by 2, or in terms of left shifting and right shifting, X has to be right shifted. What about Y? Y has to be right shifted. What about count? Yes, count equal to count plus 1. Right? Now, can you tell me how the control signals should behave? Right? What should happen to load X? So I have pushed the data path also through Acadly. You can look at the figure and then tell me what you expect your load X to be. So we want to update our X with X right shifted 1. What should happen to load X control signal? It should be 1. Right? Everyone is able to access this image? Right? Okay. So we want to update the value of X with X right shifted by 1 bit, which means your load X should be 1. What should happen to update X? Update X should also be 1, because we want this path to be active. Is that clear? So the path we want to be active is, if X is even, you want to feed X value, right shift it by 1, and then update it in the next cycle. Right? So all the signals that will make this loop possible has to be turned on appropriately. Right? So load X should be 1. Update X should be 1. What about load Y? Should be equal to 1. Update Y equal to 1. Now we are also updating our count variable, right? Count equal to count plus 1. So what should happen to the variable update counter? This should be 1. And what about up slash down bar? This should also be 1, because we want our counter to be counting up. Okay. So is this clear? Any questions on this? And you can say that all the other controller outputs can be equal to 0. Okay. Let me pick up one more case. Okay. So your left shift X should be 0. So I can write this explicitly if there is a confusion. So left shift X should be equal to 0. What about load X after subtraction? That should be equal to 0. Similarly, load Y after subtraction should also be equal to 0. Right? Let me again highlight the path for X. You want to start from here. Sorry. You want to start from here. X has to be right shifted, and that value has to be loaded. Right? So you want load X to be 1. Update X should be equal to 1. This path should be equal to 0, because this is the path you want to follow, and you want to choose the right shifted value. Therefore, left shift X should be 0, so that you come out like this. Okay. Now let me also take the let's say we take the second case, where so you are looking at X of 0 being 0 and Y of 0 being 1. So this means that your X is even and Y is odd. So tell me, what is the operation you expect to see on X and Y? X should be right shifted by 1. Right? Y should be, it has to hold the same value. Count, it has to hold the same value. So now let us again go through the outputs of the controller. Load X. So load X should be equal to 1. Update X equal to 1. So from the back, what should be load Y? What should be load Y? It should be 0. Good. Update Y. Update Y, because load Y is 0, it doesn't matter, but I'll still put it as, let's say if you want it as 1, I can keep it as 1. What about update counter? And the up/down bar,
And
it could be anything, right? For maybe now I'll keep it as 1. And all the other outputs of the controller has to be 0. Right? Any questions here? Okay. Let us also do this case where x is greater than y. So we are looking at this case. So both x and y are odd and x is greater than y. So what are the operations you expect to see? What should happen to x? It should become x minus y, right shifted by 1. Y? All the resources are with you. What should happen to y? Yes, y has to be held. Count? You have to hold the count. Okay. So quickly, load x. Load x should be 1. Update x. Load y. Update y. It could be anything. I'll keep it as 1. Then what else? Because we have something interesting happening here. So what other register?
load is like after subtracting.
So you want to make load x after subtraction to be equal to 1. So let me highlight the path that we want to follow now. So you start from here. You start from here. You want to get x minus y, and then you need to right shift it, and then you want to come back like this, right? So now that you are taking this path, you want load x after subtraction to be equal to 1. Okay. Update counter can be 0. Again, up down bar not significant here, and all the other outputs can be equal to 0.
Left shift x should also be 1. 0.
So what we are doing here is right shifting. Left shift x is utilized in the second loop. We are still in the first loop. Now when do you come out of S loop 1? When x is equal to y. Right? So then you go to S loop 2. Right? And what is the condition we need to check in S loop 2? So in S loop 2, you want to check if count is equal to 0, or if count is greater than 0. As long as count is a non-zero value, you keep left shifting x, and you make your count go low by 1 bit. Okay. So the condition we need to check is, as long as your count is not 0, don't like this. If your count is not 0, what is the operation you need to do? What state will you be in if your count is non-zero? You will remain in S loop 2. Right? And in this state, what is the operation that you want to happen at every clock cycle? So you want your x to be left shifted by 1. And what happens to y? Right? It doesn't matter. So I'm going to simply hold the same value. And what happens to count? So count has to become count minus 1. Right? Let us look at the outputs of the controller. Load x, 1. Update x. Load y, update y. Doesn't matter. So I'm going to put it as 1 for now. Update counter. Up/down bar.
0.
Has to be 0. Good. What else do I need to take care of? So left shift x should be equal to 1. Okay. And when do you come out of S loop 2? When count is 0. and then you come out to the S ready state. What needs to happen here?
Ready should be 1.
So ready is anyways an output. You keep your ready to be equal to 1, right? And you can wait in this state till an external controller resets you. So maybe when you get a reset, you move back to S reset, and then you can start the whole operation all over again. Okay. Now here again there are more design choices that you can think of. What if you are in S ready and you get a start signal, right? Now if the user says that if you get a start signal under those cases, I don't want to go and reset my system and then start again by loading the value, you might ask you to directly move on to the start state, right? So this is also a possibility. You can move to this state if your start is 1. But for now, let's say we have designed the system as it is visible to you right now. So any questions on this?